I sit in my parents' living room, perched on the edge of the floral armchair that's occupied the same spot for 20 years. Christmas lights twinkle through the windows, reflecting off the framed family photos, lining the mahogany shelves, images of vacations, graduations, and celebrations, where my smile never quite reached my eyes. The fireplace crackles, sending warmth across the room that doesn't penetrate the chill settling in my chest. Juliet's squeal pierces the air as she tears open a small box wrapped in gold paper. "Mom, Dad, it's exactly what I wanted. $4,300 you shouldn't have." She pulls out a cream-colored Gucci Marmont bag, caressing it like a newborn. The designer logo catches the light as she bounces on her knees. 26 going on 16. Mom beams. "Only the best for our baby girl." Dad nods, satisfied. "You deserve it, princess." The room goes still as I carefully unwrap my gift, a small envelope sealed with a snowflake sticker. My fingers don't tremble yet. They've had practice at this. Inside, a $2 paper card with snow-capped mountains and the printed message, "Season's greetings." No handwritten note, no gift card, no check. My face remains composed while something deep inside shatters. 29 years of hope collapse in an instant. Across the room, Aunt Margaret catches my eye. Her mouth opens slightly, horror flashing across her features before she schools her expression. She knows. She sees. Dad checks his watch, fidgeting with the band. Traffic will be bad if we don't leave for the restaurant by 7. Mom hurries to refill Juliet's eggnog, avoiding my gaze with practiced ease. "Look how the leather catches the light," Juliet announces, parading around the living room with her new treasure. "It goes with everything I own." My hands finally betray me. A slight tremor as I carefully fold the card and slip it into my pocket. A souvenir of invisibility. Earlier today, I stood in my modest Portland apartment, wrapping gifts I'd selected with painful care. My teacher's salary of $57,000, stretched thin between student loans and rent, but I'd saved for months for this day. The Italian silk scarf for Mom, $180, wrapped in silver paper with a bow I'd tied 3 times to get perfect. "She'll love the blue pattern," I whispered, smoothing the edges. The Parker pen for Dad, $145, engraved with his initials, nestled in a velvet box. He mentioned needing a new one for client meetings. The rare art book for Juliet, $120, wrapped with a handwritten note about the exhibit we'd promised to see together. A sister promise never kept. "Maybe this Christmas will finally be different," I told my reflection as I applied mascara, careful not to smudge. Hope, that stubborn weed, still blooming after decades of frost. Now I stand, smoothing my skirt as the family continues celebrating around me. Juliet snaps photos of her bag for Instagram. Dad pours another bourbon. Mom arranges cookies on a vintage platter. "I think I need some fresh air," I say, my voice steady despite the earthquake in my chest. No one looks up except Aunt Margaret, who crosses the room and touches my shoulder. Her fingers press firmly, a Morse code of understanding. "You're not wrong," she whispers. "You deserve so much more." I nod once, throat tight, and retrieve my coat from the hall closet. The wool scratches against my wrists as I button it methodically from bottom to top. No one notices as I walk out the front door, leaving dinner unfinished. The profound silence follows me down the porch steps, across the icy walkway, to my car dusted with fresh snow. The drive to Council Crest Park takes 12 minutes. I park facing the overlook, Portland's lights spread below like fallen stars. The city continues its Christmas Eve rhythms, oblivious to single-car vigils and broken traditions. When did I become so invisible to them? The words fog the windshield, questions without answers. I remove the card from my pocket. Not just paper, but a symbol of lifelong dismissal. 29 years of hoping for equal love compressed into a mass-produced greeting. My tears finally flow freely, hot tracks down cold cheeks. 29 years of hoping for equal love, and now I see it will never come. The city lights blur through my tears, transforming into smeared watercolors against the night. I wonder how many others sit alone tonight, clutching evidence of their family's failure to see them. Have you ever felt invisible to those who should see you most clearly? A month has passed in silence. Only occasional calls from my family, yet my aunt calls often to check up on me. One Tuesday after work, I spread photo albums across my living room floor, January sunlight struggling through Portland's perpetual cloud cover. 1 month since Christmas. 1 month since the $2 card. Elise Turner, archaeological dig. I whisper. tracing my finger along a photo from my 13th birthday. A supermarket sheet cake sits before me, frosting slightly melted under kitchen lights. My smile looks rehearsed. Beside it, I place another photo. Juliet's Sweet 16 at the Benson Hotel, crystal chandeliers gleaming above a 3-tiered custom cake. Dad's arm draped around her shoulders while Mom adjusts Juliet's new pearl necklace. I never realized how methodically I've documented my own erasure. College acceptance letters, preserved in plastic sleeves. Mine to Portland State with a full academic scholarship. Their note paper clipped to the corner. You'll need to work part-time for expenses. Juliet's to fashion school with their scrawled message. We're so proud. Don't worry about anything but your studies. My fingers shake as I turn to my graduation photos. Mom and Dad arriving 20 minutes before the ceremony ended, Dad checking his watch repeatedly. Sorry we're late, honey. Juliet's preliminary fashion show needed our attention. Mom had smoothed my collar, left lipstick on my cheek, and asked when I planned to start job hunting. The evidence surrounds me like archaeological artifacts of a civilization built on imbalance. I open my desk drawer and pull out a leather-bound ledger book. Inside, columns of numbers track years of self-sufficiency, student loan statements totaling $24,800, despite working 20 hours weekly at the campus bookstore for $12 an hour. An email printout from Dad. Sorry, we can't help with your apartment security deposit right now. Next to it, a newspaper clipping about Juliet's fashion school. Tuition, $38,000 per year, plus $20,000 for her essential study program in Milan. The figures burn in my vision like accusing neon signs. My current rent statement, $1,200 monthly for a one-bedroom apartment with unreliable heating. Juliet's Instagram post about her new downtown luxury apartment. Blessed family support. Rent, $2,800, fully funded. My phone buzzes. I ignore it, focusing instead on a stack of family birthday cards. Mom's handwriting across multiple years. Elise, I retrieve my journal from the nightstand and carefully place the card inside. Beneath it, I write in deliberate letters, the last time I'll beg for love. My phone buzzes again with a family group chat notification. I open settings and silence it. Done. Another text from Mom. Casual dinner Sunday? Your father's grilling steaks? I type, sorry, I have plans. No elaborate excuse, no promise to reschedule. Juliet calls next. Elise, can you help me move into my new place next weekend? Mom and Dad are busy with some financial thing. My finger hovers over the screen. The old Elise would rearrange her schedule, would show up with coffee and donuts, would spend hours assembling IKEA furniture while Juliet directed from the sidelines. I'm not available. I text back. Good luck with the move. 3 dots appear as she types. Disappear, reappear. Finally, what's wrong with you lately? I take a deep breath and type what might be the most honest message I've ever sent. I need some time away from family gatherings. The response is immediate. Mom's going to be upset. I set the phone down without replying. For once, that's not my responsibility. Standing before my bathroom mirror, I study my reflection. The same hazel eyes, the same straight nose, the same person who has spent 29 years hoping for equal footing. When does hope become self-destruction? I ask my reflection. Back at my journal, I write another question. What would I tell my students if they were treated this way? The answer comes with startling clarity. I would tell them they deserve respect. I would tell them love shouldn't require constant proof of worthiness. I would tell them that sometimes the family we're born into isn't equipped to see our value. I close the photo albums, tuck away the ledger of financial inequities, and stack everything neatly in a storage box. Not to forget, to preserve the evidence. To remind myself on weekdays that this isn't imagined. This isn't overreaction. The pattern is real. The erasure is documented. And for the first time, I'm allowing myself to see it clearly. When did you realize a painful pattern in your life needed to change? 6 weeks later, I am already into the new job position, and I am completely focused only on myself. The sun streams through the windows of the pottery studio as I sink my fingers into cool clay. The wheel spins, my hands guide, and something beautiful emerges from nothing. I've been coming here every Saturday morning for 6 weeks straight, the $250 receipt for the course pinned to my kitchen calendar with a magnet that declares, investment in myself. You've got a natural feel for this, Elise, says Miranda, the instructor. Her silver-streaked hair falls across her face as she leans over to examine my work. Most beginners fight the clay. You're learning to collaborate with it. The metaphor isn't lost on me. For 29 years, I've been fighting against my family's perception of me, instead of building something new with the materials at hand. Thank you, I say, applying gentle pressure to form the lip of what will become a serving bowl. I'm trying to be more patient with the process. Not just with clay, but with myself. The words from yesterday's therapy session echo in my mind as clearly as if Dr. Williams were standing beside me. Your worth isn't measured by their recognition. $90 per session, money I once would have spent on elaborate gifts for people who never appreciated them. Now those funds build my interior landscape instead. Last night, I removed the last family photo from my living room wall. The space now holds 3 framed prints I selected from a local artist, images of solitary trees standing strong against stormy skies. My bookshelf has transformed too, filling with volumes I've chosen for myself rather than the literary classics my father insisted represented cultured people. My phone buzzes. Mother's name appears on the screen with her weekly attempt to restore the old dynamics. Elise, dear, I was thinking you should host Easter dinner this year. Juliet is so busy with her new project, and it would give you a chance to show everyone your cooking skills. The ellipsis in her voice carries the weight of unspoken judgment. 3 months ago, I would have agreed immediately, desperate to prove my worth through perfect deviled eggs and a spotless apartment. Today, I set down my clay-covered hands and type a simple response. I'm not available to host Easter this year. I have prior commitments. No explanation, no apology, just a boundary, clear as the line between wet clay and dry table. Very nice, says Miranda, nodding at my bowl. You're finding your center. I am, in more ways than one. Monday morning brings unexpected validation at school. Principal Harrington calls me into his office, sliding my teacher evaluation across his desk with a rare smile warming his typically stern face. This is exceptional work, Elise. The student responses to your creative writing unit were remarkable. I've never seen engagement numbers like these. I accept the folder, scanning the comments from students. One jumps out. Miss Turner's assignment about writing our life story from a different perspective changed how I see myself. I never thought about being the hero instead of the victim. The words land in my chest like a warm stone. All those years feeling invisible, and here I am, helping others see themselves more clearly. There's something else, Principal Harrington continues. We need someone to lead the summer writing program. Your independent spirit is exactly what we need. It comes with a stipend, of course. The word independent no longer stings as it once did when my mother used it to justify her neglect. Now it carries the weight of respect. I'd be honored, I reply, straightening my shoulders. That afternoon, I receive an email inviting me to present at a regional education conference. My finger hovers over the delete button, my first instinct to assume it's been sent to me by mistake. Then I remember Dr. Williams's words. Assume you deserve good things until proven otherwise. I click accept instead. Later that evening, I open my banking app and transfer $500 into the account labeled Home Down Payment, the first deposit of many. A home that will truly be mine, not a space I occupy at the edges of someone else's life. The phone rings at midnight. Juliet's sobbing voice fills my ear before I can even say hello. He broke up with me, Elise. I can't believe it. Derek just walked out after dinner. I need you to come over. I can't be alone right now. The old Elise would have jumped from bed, thrown on clothes, and driven across town at unsafe speeds to comfort her sister. The woman I'm becoming takes a breath. I'm so sorry that happened, Juliet. I can talk tomorrow during my lunch break. What? I need you now. This is serious. I understand you're hurting. I'm available at noon tomorrow. My time matters too. The shocked silence stretches between us, a new territory neither of us has mapped before. I guess I could wait until tomorrow. Juliet finally whispers. Then, something I've never heard from her before. I'm sorry, Elise. I didn't think about what time at Island. After we hang up, I lie awake, half expecting the follow-up call from Mother, outraged at my selfishness. It comes at 1:07 p.m., her angry voice filling my voicemail with familiar accusations. I delete it, without listening to the end. In weeks to come, my support network expands like ripples in still water. Robert, the history teacher whose classroom sits across from mine, stops by my desk after the final bell. I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner Friday, he says, his hands fidgeting with a paperclip. Just as friends, but I've always admired your dedication to your students. Aunt Margaret arrives for a weekend visit, unfolding grandmother's quilt across my bed with reverent hands. She always saw your light, Elise, even when others didn't, Margaret says, smoothing the faded fabric. She left this specifically for you, because she knew you'd appreciate its story. My pottery classmates organize a hiking trip to Mount Hood. My therapist notes how my posture has changed, opening like a flower turning toward sun. At a staff meeting, when the athletic director dismisses my suggestion about incorporating creative writing into physical education, my colleague Sandra speaks up. Elise has been saying this for years. The research supports her approach. The family group text pings with cousin Caleb's wedding announcement for June. Everyone responds with enthusiastic acceptance. I type simply, I'll attend, but I'll drive separately. Mother's private text arrives within minutes. Why are you being difficult? I consider a dozen responses before settling on truth without malice. Setting healthy boundaries isn't being difficult. In my calendar, I created the entry. Wedding, 2 hours maximum. Bring Robert? We've been dating for a while. The balcony garden I've started flourishes with herbs and native wildflowers. As evening light filters through the leaves, I sit with my journal open on my lap. The pages contain fewer questions now, more declarations. Today I write, growth requires both distance and nourishment. My fingers, still faintly stained with clay, trace the words. What seeds of self-respect are you ready to plant in your own life? The question rises unbidden as I watch a bee navigate between blossoms, purposeful in its journey. The answer blooms within me, stronger than any doubt could overwhelm, ones that will finally allow me to thrive. And in months to come I will finally show my family who I am. On the day of the wedding, 3 months later, I step out of Robert's car, smoothing the fabric of my sage green dress. The simple silk falls just below my knees, affordable elegance that took 3 months of careful budgeting. You look beautiful, Robert whispers, his hand finding the small of my back. The country club sprawls before us, manicured lawns stretching toward Mount Hood in the distance. Cousin Caleb chose well for his wedding venue, though I wonder how Uncle George afforded it on his hardware store income. Ready? Robert asks. I nod, more truthfully than I've ever been. 6 months of therapy and boundary setting have armored me for this family gathering. Juliet spots us immediately, waving frantically from the entrance. Her sequined cocktail dress catches the afternoon sunlight, sending prisms dancing across the pavement. Too formal for a garden wedding, but that's Juliet always one notch above appropriate. Elise, you actually came. She air kisses near my cheek, perfume clouding between us. And you brought a friend? Robert Thompson, he says, extending his hand. Elise's colleague. And more, I add firmly. We've been dating for 3 months. Juliet's perfectly plucked eyebrows rise. Mom didn't mention that. Mom doesn't know everything about my life anymore. Before she can respond, Mom appears, her smile stretched thin as worn elastic. Her eyes dart between us, landing on my simple gold necklace, the dress, Robert's steady presence. Elise, darling. Her hug feels mechanical. Your apartment must be getting cramped with company these days. Have you thought about upgrading? The old familiar sting threatens, but I breathe through it. My apartment suits me perfectly. Dad approaches, tugging at his collar. The suit hangs looser than I remember. There's my independent girl, he says, patting my shoulder awkwardly. Your apartment must be getting too small for you now. Same script, different Turner. I simply smile. Aunt Margaret rescues me, swooping in with a genuine embrace. Look at you, she whispers, standing tall. She glances over her shoulder before adding, your parents are having financial troubles. Thomas's investments tanked. The ceremony passes in a blur of white tulle and promises. During the reception, I notice details that would have escaped me before. Dad arguing with the photographer in harsh whispers about payment terms. Mom's handbag, not her usual Prada, but a well-worn leather clutch with a small scuff on the corner. And most telling, Juliet's panicked expression when the bartender returns her credit card, shaking his head. The garden behind the reception hall offers temporary escape. Roses climb trellises, their June blooms heavy with perfume. I breathe deeply, counting backward from 10 Dr. Williams's technique for processing surprise without reaction. Running away again? I turn to find Juliet, her mascara slightly smudged at the corners. Taking a moment, I correct her. The difference matters. She slumps onto a stone bench, unexpectedly graceless. You're different now. Yes. I realized how unfair everything was. The words tumble out, unpracticed. I'm sorry, Elise. I wait, years of experience teaching me that Juliet's apologies often come with conditions. They can't support me anymore. She continues, voice cracking. Dad's business is collapsing. The condo's being sold. My credit cards are maxed out. I sit beside her, maintaining careful inches between us. That sounds difficult. I never learned to stand on my own like you did. A tear tracks through her foundation. I don't know how to live on what I actually earn. The sunset paints the garden in amber light, turning Juliet's sequins into tiny flames. We sit in silence, the first comfortable quiet between us since childhood. Back inside, Dad corners me near the cake table. You've always been good with finances, he begins, voice unusually hesitant. Teachers have excellent retirement planning skills. I sip my champagne, waiting. We might need some advice. Family helping family, you know. Before I can respond, relatives swarm around us. Elise, heard you got department head. Uncle George booms. Always knew you'd be successful. Mom appears at my elbow. Elise was always our practical one, she says, her fingers nervously twisting her wedding band. So responsible. Across the room, Robert chats with his sister who drove up from Salem. She's the most respected teacher at her school. I overhear him say, pride warming his voice. Juliet approaches, subdued. Do you know about affordable apartments in Portland? Maybe with roommates? The irony isn't lost on me after years of invisibility. Suddenly everyone sees me, not for who I am, but for what I might provide. When Dad mentions temporary family assistance later, I maintain polite distance without cruelty. I'm not in a position to help financially. I tell him directly. My budget is carefully balanced with my own needs. To Juliet, I offer what she actually needs. Start with a budget and roommates. It's how I survived my first 3 years teaching. 2. Mom attempts guilt her specialty. We always supported you. Emotionally or financially? I ask quietly. Her silence answers more truthfully than words could. At 9, I find Robert by the bar. Ready to leave? I ask. The relief in his eyes mirrors my own. Whenever you are. We slip away during the bouquet toss, driving toward Cannon Beach rather than returning to Portland. The night air carries salt and freedom as we walk barefoot along the shoreline, shoes dangling from our fingers. You handled that beautifully, Robert says. I watch the moonlight ripple across the Pacific. Sometimes the greatest gift is seeing clearly. The waves crash and retreat, a rhythm older than family patterns. I wonder how many others have found strength in walking away from expectations that never served them, choosing instead the uncertain path of self-respect. The ocean doesn't answer, but somehow, I no longer need it to. A week after the wedding, I arrived at my parents' house exactly at 6, parking my Honda next to Dad's Lexus that now shows patches of rust around the wheel wells. 2 hours. That's all I've allocated for this important family discussion. My watch timer is already set. The front porch light flickers weakly as I approach. No Christmas wreath adorns the door this June evening, but the familiar weight of expectation hangs heavy in the spring air. I knock, instead of using my key. Mom answers, her smile too bright, her hug too tight. Elise, you look wonderful. That promotion agrees with you. I step into the living room, where the furniture seems oddly rearranged. The Italian leather sectional has vanished, replaced by a generic beige sofa. Family photos still line the walls, but the expensive crystal vase that normally dominates the coffee table is missing. Dad rises from his armchair, his shoulders slightly stooped. Punctual as always, Elise. I have a morning staff meeting tomorrow, I explain. I can stay until 8. Juliet sits in the corner armchair, her fingers twisting in her lap. She offers a small wave but remains unusually quiet. Mom bustles in with a tray of coffee cups. I made your favorite lemon cookies. Family needs to stick together during challenging times. Dad begins without preamble. He paces before the fireplace where no fire burns despite the evening chill. The Turner name has always stood for something in this community. Mom sits beside me, her hand reaching for mine. We've always been so proud of you, Elise. Your independence, your determination, that teaching award. You've never needed much from us. My skin prickles with familiar recognition. The script hasn't changed, just the circumstances. I sip my coffee and wait. The market downturn has been particularly brutal for the investment firm. Dad continues, his voice straining for its usual authority. Our portfolio, well, there have been significant losses. The bank has been calling about the mortgage, Mom adds, her voice dropping to a whisper. We might lose the house. Dad clears his throat. Juliet's lease renewal is coming up next month. That downtown apartment complex raised the rates again. Mom squeezes my hand. We noticed your school district announced that new department head position, the one with the substantial raise. The pieces click into place with perfect clarity. I set my coffee cup down carefully on the table. We're just wondering if you might temporarily help with Juliet's expenses. Dad says, the word temporarily, stretching thin between us, just until things stabilize. Family helping family, Mom adds, her smile wobbling. You've always been our rock. The room falls silent. Juliet studies her expensive manicure, shame coloring her cheeks. I need to say something that's long overdue. My voice sounds steadier than I feel. I reach into my purse and withdraw the Christmas card, now slightly worn at the edges from the months I've carried it. I place it on the coffee table. This was the moment I finally saw the truth. Dad glances at the card dismissively. A Christmas card? Really, Elise, we're discussing serious financial matters here. This isn't about money. I trace the paper mountain scene with my finger. This is about 29 years of messages that I matter less. Juliet's sweet 16 at the Benson Hotel while my 13th birthday was celebrated with a grocery store cake. My college scholarship with your note that I should work part-time, while you fully funded Juliet's fashion school and her semester in Italy. Mom's face drains of color. We never meant. I don't believe you did it consciously, I continue. But it happened consistently. Every birthday, every Christmas, every milestone. That's ridiculous. Dad's face flushes with indignation. We gave you everything you needed. But never what she wanted, Juliet says suddenly. All eyes turn to her. She's right. We've always treated her as less important. I've watched it my whole life and benefited from it. Dad's mouth opens, then closes. The foundation of family mythology cracks visibly before my eyes. This isn't about punishing anyone, I say. But if we want a relationship moving forward, it starts with respect and equality. So you won't help your sister? Mom's tears spill freely now, genuine rather than strategic. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I won't be the family's financial solution while the pattern continues. I won't fund Juliet's luxury apartment when I've struggled to afford my own place. I won't contribute to a dynamic where I give everything and receive nothing. After all we've done for you. Dad's voice rises sharply, revealing his true expectations. This is how you repay us? I'm offering something better than money. I reply, my voice level. I'm offering honesty. I'm offering the chance for a relationship built on mutual respect rather than obligation. She doesn't owe us, Juliet says quietly. None of this is her responsibility. The silence that follows feels like the first honest moment we've shared in decades. I stand, smoothing my skirt. I need acknowledgement of what's happened. I need my boundaries respected. I'm willing to help Juliet find an affordable apartment, create a budget, apply for jobs, but I won't sacrifice my financial security or self-respect. Mom's shoulders shake with silent sobs. Dad stares out the window, his back rigid with pride. Think about what I've said. I gather my purse. I'll let myself out. The night air feels cleansing as I walk to my car. Stars pierce the darkness overhead, witnesses to a truth finally spoken. I realize, starting the engine, that the truth doesn't need to be harsh to be powerful. It simply needs to be spoken. What truth have you needed to speak, even when others weren't ready to hear it? I unlock the door to my new Portland condo, the key sliding into place with a satisfying click. 1 year after that Christmas revelation, my life stands transformed not by what others gave me, but by what I finally gave myself permission to matter. Last box, Robert announces, setting a cardboard container labeled books on the bamboo floor I selected myself. His steady presence these past months has become a comfort I never knew I needed. Not rescue, but partnership. I trace my fingers along the framed house key mounted on the entryway wall. Beneath it, a simple plaque reads, $18,000, the price of freedom, each dollar representing months of overtime, careful budgeting, and saying no to family expectations that once consumed me. "Department head looks good on you," Aunt Margaret remarks, arranging wildflowers in a ceramic vase I created in pottery class. She touches my shoulder, her eyes crinkling with pride. "You built this life brick by brick, Elise." The afternoon sun spills through windows I spent hours selecting, casting golden rectangles across the dining table set for 4. "Not a grand gathering, but an intentional one, Robert. Aunt Margaret and Juliet will join me for dinner. My terms, my space, my boundaries intact." Dad's text message arrived this morning. "Hope the move went well." 5 words representing his struggle to navigate our new reality. Mom calls weekly now, her conversation careful but increasingly genuine. Small steps toward what might someday become authentic connection. Juliet arrives, carrying a houseplant and a bottle of mid-priced wine. Her designer bags have disappeared, replaced by sensible work attire from her first real job. "The apartment hunt is going well," she says, helping me arrange plates on the table. "My roommate works in accounting. She's teaching me about budgeting." Her voice holds a newfound humility that sometimes catches me off guard. Later, as Robert helps me hang curtains in the bedroom, his hands steady on the drill, he asks, "Have you thought about next summer? That cabin on Mount Hood is still available for rent." I smile, no longer afraid of future possibilities. "I'd like that," I answer simply. When everyone leaves, I prepare for my first night alone in my new home. I place the Christmas card, that $2 catalyst for change, in a simple frame on my desk. What once symbolized invisibility now represents strength discovered through pain. I open my journal, running my hands across a blank page before writing, "Worth is inherent, not earned or granted by others." At school, a young teacher sought me out yesterday, tears streaming down her face after a family gathering where her achievements were dismissed. I recognized that wounded look all too well. "Your boundaries aren't selfish," I told her, offering tissues and the validation I once desperately needed myself. My savings account grows steadily, now labeled Future Dreams instead of Emergency Fund. The local pottery studio called yesterday about displaying my pieces next month. From my small balcony, I watch the Portland sunset paint the sky in watercolor hues. 1 year ago, I sat in my car sobbing over a meaningless card. Tonight I stand surrounded by a life built on my own terms. The gift, I whisper to the evening air, was finding myself. I close my journal, no longer needing external validation to know my value. Turning off the porch light, I walk into rooms furnished with intention and self-respect. Love that must be earned isn't love at all. The laptop case lies empty on my bed, a hollow shell mocking me with its emptiness. My hands tremble as I run my fingers over the inside padding where my computer should be. The computer that holds my entire senior project. The project due tomorrow. "Mom?" My voice cracks as I step into the kitchen. "Have you seen my laptop? It's not in my room." Mom glances up from her magazine, eyes barely registering my presence. "No, honey. Did you check the living room?" I've already torn apart every room in this house, but I nod and check again because that's what good daughters do. They don't argue. They don't create problems. Dad walks in, loosening his tie after a long day at the office. His eyes narrow when he sees my face. "What's wrong now, Rain?" Before I can answer, the front door swings open and Corbin saunters in, hair disheveled, smelling faintly of cigarettes. My stomach tightens. Something in his casual stride, the way he avoids my eyes, confirms what I already suspect. "Where's my laptop?" I ask him directly. Corbin shrugs, heading for the refrigerator. "Sold it to Jason Blackwell. He needed one for college and offered me $300. The kitchen goes silent. $300. 4 months of working after school at Miller's Grocery, bagging groceries and enduring misses. Miller's constant criticism, gone in an instant. "You sold my laptop?" The words feel strange in my mouth, too calm for the hurricane building inside me. The one with my entire senior project on it? The project due tomorrow that determines whether I graduate? Dad steps between us. "Did you lock your bedroom door, Rain?" I stare at him, disbelief washing over me in cold waves. "What?" "You know how your brother is." Dad sighs, rubbing his forehead. "Why create more problems? You should have locked it away properly." My throat burns as memories surface uninvited. Last month, when Corbin skipped school for the 3rd time, I mentioned it at dinner. Mom's face had hardened as she told me to stop creating tension in the house. When my history test received the highest score in class, Dad had barely looked up from his newspaper. When Corbin passed math with a D, they'd taken him out for ice cream. I take a deep breath, steadying myself against the counter. I need $280 by tomorrow morning to replace it. I have to finish my project. Mom sets down her magazine, folding her hands like she's about to explain something to a small child. Honey, you know we're on a tight budget this month. Why don't you use some of your college savings? You can always rebuild that fund later. The suggestion hangs in the air. So reasonable, so logical. Use my own money to fix a problem I didn't create. Borrow from my future to compensate for Corbin's actions. I straighten my spine, blinking back tears that threatened to spill. Without another word, I walk to my room, closing the door softly behind me. Screaming would feel better. Slamming the door would feel better. But I've learned that silence is sometimes the only power I have. Through the thin walls, I hear Corbin's voice in the kitchen, complaining about being hungry. Mom's soothing response follows. I'll heat up dinner for you. There's chicken casserole. I sit at my desk, pulling out sheets of paper and a pen. My hand hovers over the blank page. The project that took me weeks to research and write exists now only in fragments of memory. Tears blur my vision as I begin writing the first line, then the second. I wipe my eyes with the back of my hand, leaving a smudge of ink on my cheek. The house grows quiet as night deepens. I work steadily, my hand cramping, then going numb. Occasional tears drop onto the paper, blurring the ink in perfect circles that dry into warped constellations. Evidence of grief that my teacher will never understand. By morning, I'll have something to turn in. It won't be what it should have been. It won't showcase the research or the careful analysis I'd originally created. But it will be enough to pass. Enough to graduate. Enough to get me one step closer to leaving this house where my voice doesn't matter and my possessions aren't truly mine. I write through the night, each word a promise to myself. A promise that someday, things will be different, and now it is the time to realize it. The next day, the college acceptance letter sits on my desk, its crisp edges now a cruel joke. 2 years have passed since Corbin sold my laptop, 2 years of working double shifts and saving every penny. Yale University, full academic scholarship, partial housing grant, the dream within reach, until now. What do you mean the account is empty? My voice sounds strange in my ears as I grip the phone tighter. The bank representative clears her throat. The account was closed yesterday, Miss Ellison. The funds were withdrawn in full by the joint account holder. The floor seems to drop away beneath my feet. I sink onto my bed, my free hand clutching at the comforter for stability. My mother withdrew $19,000? I can't provide details on who initiated the transaction, only that it was authorized by a joint account holder. If you have concerns about unauthorized access, I hang up before she finishes. The college fund my grandparents started when I was born. The fund I've added to with every paycheck since high school. Gone. When I step into the kitchen 30 minutes later, Mom and Dad are already seated at the table. Their faces wear identical expressions of practiced concern. A family meeting, then. The kind where decisions about my life have already been made. Sit down, Rain, Dad says, not looking directly at me. I remain standing. Where's my college fund? Mom folds her hands on the table, a gesture I've come to recognize as her preparing to explain something unreasonable. Corbin got into some trouble last weekend. He needed bail money. Bail money. I repeat, the words hollow. He made a mistake, Dad says, standing to tower over me. He was with some friends who had drugs in their car. Wrong place, wrong time. Mom nods. The important thing is that he's home now, and the lawyer thinks we can get the charges reduced. With my college fund, the words feel like stones in my mouth. Family helps family, Rain. Mom reaches for my hand, but I step back. You've always been the strong one. Corbin needs support right now, not judgment. The front door slams and Corbin saunters into the kitchen, as casual as if he'd just returned from a movie instead of jail. His eyes flick to me and away. He knows. Hey, Squirt, he says, heading for the refrigerator. Mom, we got any leftover chicken? Dad claps him on the shoulder. We were just explaining to your sister about the legal situation. Corbin grabs a soda, popping the tab with a loud crack. Yeah, it's all a big misunderstanding. Judge will probably throw it out next month. He looks at me expectantly, waiting for my usual quiet acceptance. My acceptance letter burns in my pocket where I'd stuffed it before coming downstairs. I start at Yale in 8 weeks. Mom's smile tightens. About that, honey. We think it might be better if you took some time off. Stay local. Community college has those night classes you could take while working. Your mother's right, Dad adds. We need to focus on getting Corbin through this rough patch. As a family. The subtext hangs clear in the air. Stay home, keep working, support your brother. Forget your dreams. Besides, Mom continues, her voice taking on that reasonable tone that makes my skin crawl, you could save up again, maybe in a year or two. Or 3 or 4, Corbin interrupts with a laugh, as if my future is a joke only he gets. I look around the kitchen, the faded yellow curtains my mother has been promising to replace for a decade, the chip in the countertop Dad keeps saying he'll fix next weekend. The calendar on the fridge marked with Corbin's court dates. Nothing for my college orientation, nothing for my future. That night, I pull my duffel bag from under the bed and pack methodically. 1 pair of jeans, 3 shirts, underwear, toothbrush, the framed photo of my grandparents. My emergency cash $280 saved from tips at the diner, hidden in a tampon box where Corbin would never look. The same amount he got for selling my laptop 2 years ago. The symmetry doesn't escape me. Morning finds me at Hal's Auto, staring at a faded blue 2004 Dodge van with rust spotting the wheel wells like a disease. She ain't pretty. My coworker Tina says, patting the hood, but the engine's solid. My uncle kept her running good. $300 was the asking price, but I could do $280 for you. I run my hand along the side panel. The van is worn but sturdy, a shelter I can own outright. As I count out my savings, every dollar I have in the world, I pause. Do you have a pen and paper? Tina rummages in her glove compartment and hands me a crumpled receipt and a ballpoint pen. I stare at the blank side of the paper, pen hovering uncertainly. Should I leave a note explaining why I'm leaving? Or would silence be the stronger statement? Words had never worked before, but would disappearing without explanation make me just like them? I pocket the pen and paper, then hand Tina my money. Some questions don't have easy answers. But for the first time in my life, I have the power to decide for myself. I will succeed even with my family sabotage. 3 days later, the police cruiser pulls into the diner parking lot with deliberate slowness. Lights off but presence unmistakable. I keep wiping tables, pretending not to notice how conversation's quiet as the officer steps inside. My back stiffens when he approaches the counter and shows my photograph to Marlene, the manager. Rain? Marlene calls, her voice carrying a note of concern I've never heard before. This officer needs to speak with you. The weight of every customer's stare follows me as I approach. My fingers twist the damp rag I'm still holding. Rain Ellison? The officer's voice is neutral. Your parents filed a missing persons report. They're concerned about your welfare. I'm 18, I say, the words barely audible even to myself. I'm not missing. Marlene crosses her arms. Is there a problem, officer? No problem if she calls her parents. He hands me a card with their number scrawled on the back. Save the department sometime. That night, Marlene calls me into her office. Her face holds the practiced neutrality of someone delivering bad news. Your mother called 3 times today. Said you're going through a phase. Mentioned you might be. She hesitates. Unstable. The word hangs between us like poison. I need reliable people, Rain. No drama. She slides my final paycheck across the desk. I'm sorry. The van becomes my entire world after that in weeks to come. I create invisible patterns across town, never staying in one spot more than a single night. Hospital parking garages on Tuesdays and Fridays, they have fewer security patrols those evenings. The library lot on Wednesdays when they close early. The Walmart far from my old neighborhood on weekends, hidden among RVs passing through town. Sleep comes in fitful bursts. Every engine starting nearby jolts me awake. Every security vehicle passing sends my heart racing. I learn to sleep sitting upright behind the wheel, one foot resting near the gas pedal, ready. The worst nights are when rain drums against the roof, not because of the noise but because condensation fogs the windows, obscuring my view of potential threats. Those nights, I wipe circles on the glass every few minutes, scanning the parking lot through bleary eyes. Morning routines form around public places. The recreation center charges $2 for a shower. The library bathroom has large sinks where I can wash my underclothes and hang them to dry in the van later. I brush my teeth in gas station restrooms, timing my visits between truckers' schedules. My greatest fear materializes as a strange grinding noise when I turn the key one morning. The van shudders but starts. I hold my breath at every stoplight, terrified it might die. The $280 that bought this shelter wouldn't cover any significant repairs. Without the van, I'd be truly homeless, sleeping on benches or in alleyways, exposed in ways that make my throat close with panic. I park behind the hospital that night, hidden between delivery trucks. The grinding noise has grown louder. As I curl beneath my blanket, rehearsing tomorrow's plan to find an affordable mechanic, a gentle tap on my window nearly stops my heart. An elderly security guard stands there, his flashlight pointed at the ground. I crack the window an inch, ready to explain, to plead, to drive away if necessary. Thought you might want this. He extends a small flashlight through the opening. My daughter lived in her car for a year. This has a radio in it. Music helps. He walks away before I can respond, his uniform disappearing into the shadows between buildings. 3 weeks later, I'm pumping gas when a familiar beige sedan pulls alongside me. My mother steps out, perfectly coiffed as always, wearing the pleasant mask she reserves for public interactions. Rain. Her voice carries across the space between us like it's reaching across a much greater distance. Everyone's worried sick about you. This has gone on long enough, don't you think? Just come home and stop this nonsense. A man filling his truck watches us with undisguised interest. A woman walks her child wide around us, sensing the tension. The police have been by twice more. Mother steps closer. We told them you've been struggling emotionally. They understand. The gas pump clicks off. I replace the nozzle, close my gas cap with deliberate movements. Just come home, she repeats. What will people think? Do you want to hurt us like this? The question unlocks something in my chest. For months, I've wondered if my silence was punishment, a childish attempt to make them feel the pain they caused. Now I understand its protection. Words gave them ammunition. Silence gives me walls. I am home, I say, gesturing to my van. The shock on her face as I walk away lightens each step. I don't look back. The librarian's name is Martha. She notices me using the same bathroom at the same time 3 days a week. Instead of reporting me, she offers me a job shelving books. 10 hours a week, she says. Enough to keep you in gas and groceries. The library manager, Douglas, pretends not to notice when Martha shows me the staff shower in the basement. Once a week, he mutters without looking up from his computer. When we close on Sundays. Their kindness contrasts sharply with my family's betrayal. These strangers offer help without demanding pieces of my soul in return. 7 months pass this way. I work mornings at the library, afternoons at a small cafe, and weekends at Bernie's furniture shop. Every penny not spent on survival goes into a savings account. The van's grinding noise was fixed years ago by a mechanic who let me pay in weekly installments. At Bernie's, I discover an affinity for woodworking. He catches me studying an antique chest of drawers one day, running my fingers over the dovetail joints. Want to learn how to restore these, he asks. Soon I'm spending extra hours in his workshop, learning to breathe life back into discarded furniture. The symmetry isn't lost on me, restoration becoming my specialty. Tonight, exhaustion pulls at my bones after a 14-hour day between the cafe and an emergency repair job at Bernie's Alade. I park behind his shop, a spot he's never explicitly offered but never forbidden either. My eyes close before I can even unfold my sleeping bag. A sharp rap on my window startles me awake. Bernie stands there, arms crossed, expression unreadable in the dim light. How long have you been sleeping here? He asks. Bernie catches me rolling up my sleeping bag at 5:30 in the morning, the January frost turning my breath into ghosts. His key ring jingles in the darkness before the shop lights flood the back lot. How long? He asks, not bothering with pleasantries. 7 months. I fold the last corner of the sleeping bag with precision. I'll be gone in 10 minutes. Bernie rubs his weathered neck, squinting at my van. That heater working? Sometimes. He nods once, decision made. Got a back room with a cot. Previous owner lived there, and I need someone full-time for restoration work. His voice holds no pity, just practicality. Park behind the dumpster, less visible from the street. That afternoon, I create a savings spreadsheet, each cell a brick in the foundation I'm building. The discipline of silence becomes the discipline of saving. Every penny tracked, every expense questioned. I volunteer for overtime, work weekends, holidays. The other employees avoid me, confused by my single-minded focus. You're making the rest of us look bad, jokes Miguel, the delivery driver, when I arrive 2 hours early to refinish a mahogany table. I don't explain that my life depends on these hours, that this chance is everything, and that I will grab it no matter what. 2 years later, my bank account shows $30,652. All the hard work, all sleepless nights, all exhaustion and pain finally led to this. I stare at the number during my lunch break, eating the same peanut butter sandwich I've had every day since Bernie caught me sleeping in my van. The amount represents 730 days of careful calculations, of choosing work over any semblance of a social life, of saying no to movies, drinks, new clothes. You ever going to spend any of that? Bernie asks, peering over my shoulder at my bank statement. House, I answer, taking another bite of my sandwich. Might be time. Market's down. He slides a newspaper across the break room table. This one needs work, but the bones are good. The real estate section shows a small 2-bedroom with peeling paint and sagging gutters. $94,000. Less than my goal of $100,000, but close enough that my heart quickens. That evening, an envelope arrives at the shop addressed to me. My mother's handwriting on the front. I almost throw it away unopened, but something makes me slide my finger under the flap. Rain, your brother Corbin is very sick. The doctors say he needs specialized treatment. Please call us. We need your help. Family helps family. A phone number for Memorial Hospital follows. I call during my afternoon break, ask for patient information. Corbin Ellison? Let me check. A pause. No patient by that name has been admitted in the past 6 months. I hang up, a cold weight settling in my stomach. Another lie. Another attempt to pull me back into their orbit of need and manipulation. Instead of rage, I feel a strange clarity. That night, I transfer the money I would have sent them $500 I'd mentally set aside just in case the emergency was real into my house fund. 2 weeks later, the real estate agent walks me through the small house on Maple Street. The carpet smells of dog. The kitchen cabinets hang crooked. But the foundation is solid, the roof new enough. Do you want to bring family to see it before making a decision? She asks, flipping through her clipboard. I hesitate, hand on the chipped banister. Was it time to rebuild those bridges? Or would inviting them into my new life just risk everything I'd worked for? No, I finally answer. But my boss might take a look at the structural elements. Bernie arrives the next day with his tool belt, tapping walls and crawling under the house. His wife Marla follows with a notebook, making a list of furniture dimensions. Got 3 dressers and a kitchen table in storage, she explains. Overflow from the shop. Take what you want. I can pay, I say quickly. Marla laughs. Bernie says you've been living like a monk for 2 years. Consider it investment in a good customer. When I sign the paperwork a week later, my hands remain steady. The pen doesn't shake. The money transfers from my account without fanfare. The keys feel impossibly light for objects representing everything I've worked toward. That night, I screw in a single porch light, the warm glow illuminating the small patch of yard that belongs to me now. On impulse, I take a photo and post it online with the caption, "From van life to my life." Within hours, my phone floods with messages from cousins, distant relatives, former classmates, people who never noticed when I disappeared. A message from cousin Tara catches my attention. So happy for you. Did you hear about Corbin and Lena? Sounds like they're having marriage troubles. Then my parents' text arrives. Beautiful home. Please send us your address so we can mail a housewarming gift. I turn off my phone and sit on my front steps, watching shadows play across my new lawn. For the first time in years, I have something they want, and for the first time, I have something worth protecting. And I will not allow anyone to take it from me. 2 weeks pass by in a blink of an eye. The doorbell chimes 3 times in rapid succession. I freeze, paintbrush suspended over the baseboard I've been refreshing all morning. No one knows my address except Bernie, his wife, and the local hardware store that delivers my supplies. I wipe my hands on a rag and approach the door cautiously. The peephole reveals a sight that turns my blood to ice water. Mom, Dad, Corbin, and a heavily pregnant woman I assume is Lena, all standing on my porch with bright, expectant smiles. My fingers hesitate on the deadbolt. For a moment, I consider pretending I'm not home, but their car parked in my driveway makes that impossible. I open the door just wide enough to stand in the gap. Surprise! Mom sings out, arms extended as if expecting a hug. We finally found you. Dad beams with unnatural cheerfulness. Look at this charming little place. Perfect starter home. The word starter settles between us like a warning. I remain silent in the doorway, neither inviting them in nor sending them away. My silence has always made them uncomfortable. Today is no exception. Aren't you going to invite us in? Mom asks, her smile faltering slightly. We drove all this way. I step back, allowing them entry because a confrontation on my front porch would draw attention from neighbors I've barely met. They file past me, eyes roaming over every surface of my home, assessing, calculating. Nice work on the living room, Corbin says, running his hand along the bookshelf I built myself. The basement finished yet? Lena and I could help with renovations while we stay down there. Lena nods eagerly, one hand resting on her rounded belly. Corbin says you have tons of space for us. The presumption is so bold it momentarily steals my breath. I watch them move through my house as if they already own it. Dad checking the water pressure in the kitchen, Mom opening my refrigerator with a TSK of disapproval at its sparse contents, Corbin disappearing down the hallway toward the bedrooms. Family supports family during hard times. Mom announces, settling onto my couch without invitation. That's always been our way. Your father and I have been thinking, she continues, patting the cushion beside her. With the baby coming and Corbin between jobs again, it makes sense for them to stay here while they get back on their feet. Corbin reappears, nodding. We'd need the master bedroom, of course. The nursery could go in that second bedroom you're using as an office. He pulls a folded paper from his pocket. I wrote up some house rules. Basic stuff, quiet hours, bathroom schedule, kitchen duties. Dad nods approvingly. Very responsible, son. The familiarity of this moment, their casual dismissal of my boundaries, their assumption of my compliance sends a surge of heat through my chest. 7 years of independence crystallize into perfect clarity. Without a word, I walk to my office and return with a leather folder. I open it on the coffee table and spread out 7 years of financial statements, property documents, and the title to my house, my name alone, on every page. This house isn't big enough for guests, I say, my voice steady and clear. I need to focus on the renovations. Mom's face flushes. But we're family. You can't just... I can, I interrupt, the sound of my own voice startling in its certainty. And I am. Dad stands straighter, employing the stern posture that once made me shrink. Rain, be reasonable. Corbin and Lena need help. Yes, I agree. They do, but not from me. I move toward the front door and hold it open, a clear signal that this visit is concluded. They stare at me with expressions I recognize from my own face 7 years ago, disbelief that someone would actually enforce a boundary they've always freely crossed. One by one, they file out, stunned into rare silence. Rain, Mom tries one last time from the porch. What will people think? I close the door without answering. Their car remains in my driveway for 23 minutes. I know because I watch the clock, waiting for the sound of their engine starting before I allow myself to breathe normally again. 3 days later, I return from a business trip to Burlington, where Bernie sent me to evaluate an estate sale collection. The moment I turn onto my street, something feels wrong. A strange car sits in my driveway next to Corbin's old Honda. I park on the street and approach my house cautiously. The front door is locked as I left it, but when I try my key in the back door, it doesn't fit. The lock has been changed. Through the kitchen window, I see cardboard boxes stacked on my counters. Baby clothes and bottles scattered across my table. I circle to the basement entrance and find it propped open, light spilling from below. Corbin appears at the top of the basement stairs, jumping slightly when he sees me through the glass. Hey, sis! He calls through the door, his voice muffled. Surprise housewarming. We moved in while you were gone. When I don't respond, he unlocks the door, swinging it open with unearned confidence. Before you freak out, we have a legal right to be here. He holds up a wrinkled document. Rental agreement, signed by Dad as witness. We've established residency, which means you can't just kick us out without formal eviction proceedings. Lena appears behind him, cradling her belly protectively. It's just until the baby comes, then maybe a few months after. Corbin smirks at my silence, mistaking it for surrender. Same old Rain, all quiet when things get tough. He turns to Lena. Told you she wouldn't fight back. I pull my phone from my pocket and begin recording. Slowly, methodically, I document the broken lock, the damaged doorframe, the boxes of their possessions already unpacked in my kitchen. I filmed Corbin holding the forged lease, capturing his smug explanation of how they established residency while I was away. When I've gathered enough evidence, I step outside and dial 911, never taking my eyes off them through the window. I need to report a break-in at my residence. I tell the dispatcher, my voice calm. The intruders are still inside. The shock on Corbin's face when 2 police cruisers pull up is almost worth the violation of my home. He rushes outside, rental agreement in hand, confidence evaporating when the officers examine the broken lock and watch my video evidence. This is a family matter. Corbin insists, his voice rising. She's my sister. Sir, family can still commit breaking and entering. The older officer explains, examining the document. This isn't a legally binding lease, and even if it were, changing locks without the owner's permission is illegal. As they escort Corbin and Lena to their car to collect identification, I catch Corbin's eye. The revelation dawns slowly across his features. My silence was never a weakness. It was a strategy. 2 months pass without contact from any of them. Through cousins on social media, I hear rumors that Corbin and Lena have separated. My parents have disappeared completely from family posts and holiday photographs, as if they've been quietly erased. One Tuesday afternoon, I'm planting tulip bulbs along my front walkway when a car pulls into my driveway. Corbin steps out alone, cradling a small bundle against his chest. His son sleeps peacefully in his arms as Corbin stands uncertainly at the edge of my property, waiting for permission to approach. The scent of fresh paint clings to my fingers as I run my hand along the newly finished hallway. 3 coats of tranquil dawn cover walls that were once stained with someone else's memories. With each stroke of the brush, I've reclaimed another inch of space as truly mine. Through the window, I spot my old van parked in the driveway, no longer a necessity but a trophy. 7 years that metal shell kept me safe, and now it sits clean and proud on my property, a testament to how far I've come. I touch the latch of the window, a window I installed myself last month, and smile at the slight unevenness. Not perfect, but mine. My home office occupies what was meant to be a dining room. No formal meals needed when you eat standing at the kitchen counter most nights. Instead, a solid oak desk dominates the space, rescued from the discard pile at Bernie's shop and restored with 60 hours of my labor. The desk holds my laptop paid for in full, password protected, backed up to 3 different places. On the wall above hang my first paycheck from the library, the key to my van, and now, my course completion certificate in basic accounting. College comes in many forms. The librarian had told me when I confessed my dream of education had been stolen. 5 online courses later, I'm halfway to a degree that nobody can take from me. The doorbell rings, still startling after months of ownership. Through the peephole, I see Corbin shifting from foot to foot, overnight bag slung over his shoulder. The rules sheet crinkles in his hand. You're early, I say, opening the door precisely 6 inches. Checkout time from the van isn't until noon tomorrow. Jaden's got a fever. His voice lacks the entitlement it once carried. The van gets cold at night. I study his face for traces of manipulation but find only exhaustion. Shoes off at the door. Dishes done before bed. No entering my bedroom or office for any reason. I know the rules, Rain. He hands me the paper where I'd outlined all 14 boundaries in precise lettering. His signature at the bottom looks smaller somehow. 2 nights, I remind him, stepping aside. Once, he would have taken the entire house. Now he sleeps on my pull-out couch and washes his own sheets. The brother who sold my future follows my instructions about which cupboards he's allowed to open. The same hands that once took without asking now knock before entering rooms. Some lessons come through silence, others through written contracts that I enforce without apology. Later that evening, headlights sweep across my living room as Bernie's truck pulls into the driveway. His wife Carol carries a potted plant with yellow flowers, and behind them, Martha from the library clutches a bottle of wine. To building homes, not just houses. Bernie toasts once were settled on the porch I built with lumber he taught me to select. The evening light softens their faces. These people who helped without obligation, who gave without taking pieces of me in return, their laughter fills spaces in my home that silence once occupied. After they leave, I watch Jaden build towers with blocks on my living room floor. His sister naps in the portable crib Corbin set up precisely where I indicated. On my bookshelf, accounting textbooks stand beside furniture restoration guides and the letter from Bernie offering me partnership in the shop. When headlights once again crawl across my driveway, my stomach tightens. My parents step from their car, standing awkwardly on the walkway I laid myself, stone by stone. "We were wrong," my father says when I open the door. The 3 words hang between us, insufficient but unprecedented. I don't invite them in. Instead, I motion to the chairs on the porch, a buffer zone between my sanctuary and their regret. As I watch my parents sitting stiffly on my porch, I wonder if some relationships can be rebuilt with stronger foundations, or if some damage runs too deep for true repair. Is maintaining distance sometimes the healthiest form of forgiveness? Inside, Jaden laughs at his toppling blocks. Tomorrow, I'll teach him how to build something that stands.